Good Lord, we are live. Sorry for the delay. Technical issues. In fact, I got a little something I'll share with you in a second. But welcome to the Brazil Expat Journal. Oh my God, I'm all discombobulated. Welcome to the Brazil Expat Journal, the BEJ you can trust. My name's Phil. I got my buddy Pete with me, and we're going to guide you through Latin America's biggest country. Good Lord, the heat has fucked our brains, Pete.
Yes.
Do you remember your own name?
I do, but yeah, most of today I do not remember, and that was not an alcohol issue, actually. That was just heat.
Yes. Oh, Sid Owsley, in early. How are you, sir? Sorry for the delay. We had a few tech problems. In fact, I was near the Paulista area yesterday, and I saw something pretty funny, and I was like, is this an art piece or is this just reality? You know, because there's this huge thing here. I mean, you can't tell how big it is by this picture, but uh, let's say about 20. Yeah, I don't know how many feet. 17 feet tall. This thing, and it's got the error message. I'm like, that's my life. There was an error. Windows has crashed. When a friend of mine was sitting on this little bench, he comes up, up to like here maybe on it, and I was like, this is my life, and this is exactly what happened now. Just Windows decided it wanted to crash right now. It took me about 15-20 minutes to get everything back in order, and maybe Windows was feeling the heat because, guys, I mean, It's been winter time, but this heat just came out of nowhere today.
And it's not even that it's like high heat. Today, I think, like in Butanta, the high was like 33. But the thing is, yesterday it was like 19 to 21. So when the temperature just like rapidly goes up like that, you have no time to acclimatize yourself. Like one day you're wearing like a sweater and long pants, and then it's like loafing around in your underwear weather. It happened too quick.
Exactly. It happened way too quick, and I was feeling terrible today, and it was horrible. But we're here, and tonight we got a real intense show, guys. It's going to be pretty amazing, hopefully. Hopefully it'll be amazing. Hopefully Peter and I won't both be sent to the loony bin. Why do I say that? Because we're going to be talking with Émelie, okay, about mental health in Brazil. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. And everything crashed, so I lost my little bio. And there it is, Émelie Leclerc, Ph.D, clinical psychologist. She's a psychoeducator and psychologist from Montreal, Canada. She worked many years in mental health in her home country before she moved to Brazil 9 years ago. And while here, she completed a doctor's degree in psychiatry at Escola Paulista de Medicina in São Paulo. She's had her private practice since 2017 and now works exclusively online. She specialized in addiction and bipolar disorder, but because of her profile, she works a lot with immigration and also foreigners in Brazil, as well as Brazilians living in other countries. So she likes to see both sides of many issues. And I'll give you a little bit of background. I met Émelie when I went to visit her husband's brewery in a city called Tamboré, which was quite an adventure to get there. I don't want to go into it because it'll take half the podcast. But I initially wanted to talk to her about the brewery. Her and her husband, real nice guy too. But then I found out that she works with mental health, and I said, good Lord, with the pandemic, with everything going on, this is such a hot topic and such an important topic because so many people who just could not deal mentally with being stuck in their homes, and many people still aren't, and losing jobs and just all the regulations you got to do.
People dying, that'll have a downer.
A lot of people, people dying in mass will definitely screw your head up. So that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to kind of open it up in general, mental health in general, but we're really going to focus a bit on some things that you can do, some steps that you can take to protect your mental gate during this time and in general, because being an expat is not easy, guys. It's not easy. There's a lot of ups and definitely a
And
lot of downs.
that's an important consideration too, because I think all expats have some mental health issues, and it's sometimes I wonder if is it the mental health that makes us become expats, or is it being expats that causes the mental health problems? It's
Well,
like
I tell you, you
very
got to
much.
be crazy to come to Brazil. I'll say that
Yeah,
much.
well, I don't know. I've lived in three different foreign countries, and I encounter the same syndrome everywhere. Like, all of us are not really quite right, but is
Right.
it the lifestyle that made us that way, or did we choose the lifestyle because we are that way?
Well, let's get
Maybe
Emily.
Emily can answer that question.
Yeah, let's get her in there so she can answer this question. We got her on already with a tough
Hi
question.
guys.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm here. I'm
Pleasure to
good.
meet
How are
you.
you? Glad I
So,
could
Emily,
make it.
Emily, are
Yeah.
we nuts for coming here, or did coming here make us nuts?
Well, specifically your case, Phil, I don't know. But then, joke apart, I don't. I think there's a. I think it's two ways. Everybody is different. I don't. I don't think nobody's nuts to start right. But I think sometimes people are unhappy with their life, and this is normal. And then they seek something else. So they want to move because obviously, if someone is totally happy in the life that they have and everything's working fine, they don't feel the need for something different. They don't feel for, so why they're going to move to? So it's not an easy question. I think everybody has an easy answer. Everybody has their own life, their own story, and
Hmm.
obviously it comes with many, many, many challenges to move country. It's something very, very challenging. You need to have a lot of the personal resources to get through this.
Well, that's going to open me up to my question to you is what made you move to Brazil?
I fell in love with my husband in Montreal. He was studying in Montreal, and then we decided to move to Brazil because he wanted to open a brewery because he learned how to brew in Canada. And then he said, "No, but the market there is too full. Like I want to open a brewery in
Yeah.
Brazil." So then we moved to Brazil, and I was crazy enough to say yes. So you see, nobody's nuts, but I was crazy enough to say yes, and it was a big challenge. Hmm.
Definitely a big challenge. And I think one of the things that I believe Emily is going to help demystify here, and I think Pete and I can definitely hop in and agree with it, is that the fantasy of moving to another country. A lot of people see those Instagram posts and everybody's happy and they're eating at these
Yeah.
nice restaurants and they're on the beach side. And maybe that's true for the traveler. You're in a country for 2 weeks to a month, and yeah, you're gonna have the paradise life. But if you're making that choice to stay long term, it's a different animal, and
Yeah.
it's a lot that you have to prepare for. So, Emily, what I asked Emily to do is maybe give us some tips on, when we're here, things that we can do to keep our mental health in check, connect with family, things like that. But what would you give as far as advice, Emily, for people who are just thinking of taking that plunge and just moving to another country? Like, I'm done with Canada, I'm done with England, I'm going to another country, especially a developing nation like Brazil.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is something, but I think that the reason why you move is very different because the profiles that I see when I work, someone who moved here because they were in love with Brazil and they traveled here a lot. They exactly they're in the mentality like traveling and having fun, vacation, and then they move to work. This is one thing. This is
Yeah.
this is already like one profile that we see often. The other one we see often is someone like me who fell in love and met a Brazilian, decided to move here. It's different. I think it comes with different challenges. Um, what people can do to prepare themselves, I think, is going to depend on which path they're following. You know, if they're coming for work too, I think this one is one that's pretty frequent too. Um, Obviously, I think first of all they need to ask themselves why they want to move to Brazil, you know, or
Hmm.
any country. Why are you doing this? What is your motivation? What is your objective? What is your, you know, what is your view upon it? I think this is the first thing that needs to be clear for the person. If you move to Brazil to have a slower lifestyle, to have, you know, after it's hard to complain like, oh, people are slow, things are not working. Yeah, but that's why you moved here. So it's
Hmm.
part of it. Like you have to deal with it, you know. So I think there's always like the positive, the negatives are kind of together sometimes. And you have, if you can see the big picture and take a step back, you can be
Yeah,
a
I
bit
think your
happier.
reason is the most common. The family connection, marriage, whatever, seems to be the most common reason for Brazil specifically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's hard to move here just for work. They don't give the work
Hmm.
visa either. And it's a bit complicated. Yeah.
yeah, no, unless your job transfers you here, chances are you either came as a tourist and you really loved it. So then you say, hey, let me go move here. And, then you have to find out sometimes the hard way that touristing and living are two very different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you fall in love with somebody, and probably most of our expats that are down here have a Brazilian mate who they met overseas and are down here for that. But I love what you said, know why you're coming, because that kind of leads to this whole idea that I think is important of goal setting. Set your goals, be
Hmm.
really objective with them so that you can just manage the tidal wave of emotions that you may feel when you're in a new place. Um, because there's that old kind of philosophy, Emily, of like, you can change the location, but you can't change you, so
Yes.
Yeah.
you can think, okay, if I move out of this house or I move out of this neighborhood on a micro scale, I'm going to feel better about my life. And I mean, environment does help a little bit, but hey, if you haven't really taken a look at your own shit, you're going to have the same shit in a new house. So,
Yeah, it can actually be a detriment in some respects because once you remove yourself from all the things that are familiar to you, like your family, the friends that you grew up with, your usual job, all you're really left with is the real you. And for some people, that can be like a real downer.
it can be scary as hell. It can
Yeah.
be scary as hell to just be with you and you. Now, Emily, down here in Brazil, I'm going to actually share something real quick, and I want your thoughts on it. Let me
Hmm.
share the screen here. I got an article from 2020, and it's 6 facts about mental health in Brazil. Because I
Hmm.
want to ask you what your impression is here in Brazil with mental health. If you think it's strong, it's weak, how do you feel about it? But we got people recognize mental health in Brazil as a taboo, so people don't really talk about it. Okay. The focus on traditional work culture exacerbates anxiety and depression. Brazilians, there's especially in São Paulo, but in other parts, of the country, the folks, especially working class, man, they leave the house 7 in the morning. They get home like after 8 every day. Loaded buses. It's a complicated place to live if you're just on that working class status. Worsening socioeconomic status increases the prevalence of mental health issues, especially during COVID. Many people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Unemployment rate up, that leads to mental health issues. Adolescents between the age of 15 and 17 are at heightened risk of experiencing mental health issues. We had a boy commit suicide at the high school that I work, and within this 2 month period that this happened, I think in another school, another kid killed himself. And kids just don't talk about this stuff. Limited access to education affects mental health because although I work at a private school, majority of the schools here are public and are shit, are really bad schools, a lot of bullying and bad food and just negative environment. And declining mental health in Brazil remains difficult problem to eradicate. However, some are taking measures to lessen its intensity. One of those things is building of these CAPs. Okay, these are centers for psychosocial attention. There's a few of these all
Yes.
around São Paulo.
Mhm.
They're public. They're part of the public health system, and people do use them. But I'm wondering, Emily, what is your general feel about mental health in Brazil? Is it difficult for you to get in, talk to people, get people to talk to you? How do you feel about it?
Mhm. Well, it's you mentioned so many things. Like I'm gonna, uh, if you have some question that I didn't answer, come back to me. But because you mentioned so many things. But yeah, in Brazil, the mental health, I think it's more taboo. Like I used to live in São Paulo. Now I live in São José dos Campos, which is a big city, but it's a bit more like in the inside of the country. And I see here it's way more taboo than São Paulo. Like there's a big difference. Definitely. And when you compare in general, I think when you compare Brazil to Canada, for example, it's very uh, it's way more taboo here. But I think it's progress when like people are slowly and slowly getting a bit
Hmm.
more open to it. But yeah, it's a bit. I would say it's a bit late compared to United States or Canada, for example. What I see a lot here that I didn't see so much in Canada, and I was very surprised about that. It's panic attacks. People have a lot of panic attacks here. I don't know if it's because of my, by coincidence, I had so many clients with panic attacks here, but I have an impression it's very, the prevalence is it's much higher in Brazil.
Yeah, I got
But,
something here that says Brazil's a world leader in anxiety and depression rates.
yeah,
And I do
Yeah.
recall reading an article some time ago that said São Paulo is the city with the most psychotics in the world per capita.
really.
Yes.
I believe that.
Well, the treatment from what I've seen, I've worked with very good psychiatrists, psychologists when I was at the Unifesp in São Paulo. But I see what I see concretely, like sometimes the treatment, like it's questionable. Like you can have all the best treatment, and at the same time, you go to other specialists, and you have a totally different treatment, something very um, well, more or less recognized by science. I'm not going to mention chloroquine because this is not mental health, but we have kind of the chloroquine of the mental health. Uh, so sometimes it's a bit in general, like the quality of care, I think varies a lot from
It
the
varies
best. You can
extremely.
definitely have the best, but you can have
But yeah, I think a lot of it goes untreated, though. That's what I've noticed.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, I I'm very familiar with how prevalent anxiety and depression is in Brazil because I've had friends and students who suffer from these problems, and yeah, it just goes untreated. The panic attack thing, for example, I know someone who used to suffer from really bad panic attacks, and she didn't get any kind of treatment for it. So they acknowledge it, but maybe it's a money thing. I don't know, but they don't get treatment for it.
I think it's the taboo thing often. The taboo, and maybe I don't know. I'm wondering maybe as Brazilians they are a bit more skeptical maybe of
Yeah, that could
how
be
much
it.
help they can get
I
if they get
don't
the right
I
help.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that they feel stigmatized about it, because if they felt stigmatized about it, they wouldn't talk about it. And that's how I'm aware of it. So obviously they're talking about it and they're aware of it, but I mean, to me, money seems to be like the most logical
Yeah.
explanation for
Yeah,
why
for
they
me,
don't seek treatment.
yeah, for me, it's money too because I was actually surprised, Emily, like down here, how many of my students would just openly say, or they would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't have class today. I forgot I have a therapist, or I got to go to the psychologist." I
Yeah.
almost
You're in
since I
São
started
Paulo.
teaching English,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very open about it. Even some of my little kids. I think a dad, He was it what 2 weeks ago. He said, "I'm so sorry, I got to cancel last minute. I forgot that my little son's got he's got the psychologist today." And I'm like, "Wow, you know." But you know, these are upper class folks or upper middle class folks. They can afford to go to a
Yeah.
psychologist. And Brazil is not a country made up of upper middle class folks. It's made,
No.
yeah. Um, so either they don't have access to it financially, but even the public stuff like the cops is very difficult for Brazilian to go to because it'll be crowded, it's loaded, and they don't have information. And they're not told,
Yeah.
hey, it's okay to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it.
Hmm. The mental health, it's not centralized. It's not centralized. I mean, they probably don't even know where to go or how they can get to one because
Yeah, how to deal with it. And especially if you live in the favelas. One of my little brother's friends, sometimes he comes over here just because he needs to like get out of the favela. And he tells me, it's like, man, when I'm by myself at home, I get these weird thoughts and blah, 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 blah. So just let me come over. I'm like, yeah, dude, just come here. And he just chills. You know, we listen to music and you know he feels better after, but it's so much pressure in these poorer regions all the time. So guys, I'm showing some things here um, on the board, whatever. I'm talking like a teacher here on the screen. But I do want to move into expat mental health, okay? But I just wanted to paint a little bit of the scenario of how Brazil is as far as mental health, and a lot of times because of that, it can affect us that are down here because, like it or not, we interact with Brazilians, and we may interact with people that are very depressed, that have
Work
anxiety,
with them.
depression, or work with them.
Mhm.
So it's important to know mental health of Brazilians ranks last on the American continent. Like saw here, Brazil is the world leader in anxiety and depression rates. Prevalence of diagnosed clinical depression, you see Brazil is there in the purple, so a good color to be in. We read a little bit about that, the 6 things you may not know, and then we do have the CAPS, the Centro de
Mhm.
Atenção
Yeah. Yeah.
Psicossocial.
Mhm.
But let's get into the expat community. So you're an expat in Brazil, and you're feeling some kind of way. Okay, could be a variety of things that you may be feeling. What are the first steps that somebody should take if they're feeling that way? And guys, I say this so seriously because as I was searching for this one article that our friend Eddie had posted in the Worldwide Expats, I put in mental health, blah, blah, blah. And I saw a post that I made about an expat that committed suicide maybe 2, 3 years ago. Mr. McGrew, I forgot Johnny McGrew, real nice guy. And a friend of mine just had a colleague of his commit suicide too. She was a teacher. So, and September is Suicide Prevention Month, so it's
Yeah, it
fitting to have.
happened in China a lot too. A lot of expats in China commit suicide. They
How
come
about
over thinking that they're going to be. They have these expectations, and then the expectations don't work out, and they're like, "Well, this is it for me." It's a
yes,
really sad way to go.
yes. So, what should be the first thing somebody does, Emily, if they're starting to feel some feelings that aren't that great?
Yeah. Mental health is highly related to functionality. So if you start to feel like you're not working well, like work not going well, socially it's not going well, family is not going well, like you start to see that it's generalizing. Maybe it started just with family, but now it starts to be with the social. When it starts to generalize, it's already a bad sign. So
Mm,
if you once again, if you stop and you take a step back and you look at things and you're like, oh, 6 months ago I was having trouble with my wife, and now I'm starting to have trouble with my boss, and then I don't want to go out anymore, see my friends. There's also different types of symptoms that you can see a definite change. For example, physically, the appetite can be more appetite or less, sleep more or less, energy. Usually wouldn't be more, but it can be a problem too. as I work with bipolar disorder. But also emotionally, you feel all the time like you just think about sad stuff. You worry all the time. Everything you project in the future, you just see like the negative outcome.
Hmm.
You never think it never pass in your head like it would go well. All the time you think this gonna go wrong, this gonna go wrong, it's gonna, gonna go wrong. Cognitively, you feel like you have more trouble to concentrate.
Hmm.
You have more trouble to you keep reading the same stuff, like you don't notice exactly what it's talking about. Like some your memory
Oh,
different
memory.
stuff more
Yes.
often. Like all of this, you have to check like how many times it happens, if it's getting more frequent, if it's getting more intense. Um, because when people are under stress, you have to adapt. You have to. It's normal. Like this is not a problem. If it's temporary, it's not a problem. You can have those symptoms like a week, 2 weeks. It happens, we're all stressed sometimes. We all know how it feels like. But when it starts to go on and on, uh, then it's adaptation problem. It starts to be like, maybe you need some help, maybe there's something going on there. Usually, officially, like to have depression or anxiety, a diagnosis, usually it's going on for 6 months. So people say like, oh, I'm depressed, like it because they had 1 week, a bad week. Yes, okay, and the normal language it's fine, but for diagnosis it's 6 months, So why it's six
Right.
months? Exactly because of that. Because sometimes you're adapting, so you have to be patient. You have to give yourself some time. But if you see that it's getting worse and worse and worse, then it's different.
Yeah, like you're stuck there. And do you think it is it easy to police yourself with that, or is it nice to have like a buddy system, have somebody that can kind of let you know, hey, I think you're not doing so well.
I think it's great to have a buddy system, but the problem is that specifically for expats is something difficult to do because for many reasons people they might not want people to know that it's not going as well as they said it would go, and maybe they're experiencing some violence in their couple here. They don't want their family to know back home. There can be many different situations, and maybe they just don't want to worry people too. So
Yes.
I think it's important to learn to observe ourselves and see how it's going to. Because
Well,
usually, if you're already gone like that, you cannot see it yourself. You're further, along the way. Usually,
well, Emily, I'm gonna one up you if you allow me, because that's one reason why we're here tonight, to kind of break the taboo and let people know that you can talk and you can tell people that you're having a bad time. And I get that
yeah,
completely
yeah,
because you came to another country, you're living on Copacabana Beach, you're having a life. That's what the image is. That's the
yeah,
Instagram post versus the reality, which may not be that amazing. And people do get ashamed and people do get kind of embarrassed to say, and I've been through that
Hmm.
during the Dilma apocalypse. How do you call it, Pete? The Dilma
Dilma
apocalypse,
apocalypse. The Dilma
where
apocalypse.
I
Yeah, it's like, Mom,
myself,
I need money.
yeah, no, myself along with many just lost all their work. This doesn't deal with depression, but it dealt with a
Well,
situation
it
where
causes depression.
it does cause depression. Well, but I was in a situation where I was like, "Good Lord, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent next month." And I just put up a Facebook post. I said I need to swallow my pride and just ask for money, which I did, and I had a couple
Yeah,
friends help me
I did it
with some
too.
cash. But I was like, "Shit, this is the
It's
reality."
humiliating. It's humiliating.
It is humiliating, but it's the reality. So I think it's kind of cool, and I want us to be here tonight to kind of break the taboo. Talk to your friends.
yeah,
What was it? Maybe 2 months ago, I went through the rut. I went through a hardcore rut, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was feeling anxiety. I was feeling a whole bunch of things. Craig may know that because we're in a WhatsApp group together. I left all the WhatsApp groups. I deactivated my Facebook. I just needed to like turn off everything and deal with me. Um, but with that, I had a few choice people who I was willing to tell that to. Like Pete was one of them. a couple friends of mine, Stephanie and Monica, were others that I let them know, look, this is what I'm feeling right now. I don't know what it is. It's been like this for 2, 3 weeks. Doesn't seem like it's getting better. I just need a break. And they're very supportive, you know. And they said, yeah, no, take your break, do what you got to do. And I got better, thankfully. But I was down, like I was nearly suicidal down. You know, I was feeling that messed up in the head. Um, and then, you know, I worked myself out of it, but it was rough. But again, I had to like break the taboo and not be afraid to say, "Look, guys." I mean, the world didn't need to know. I didn't make a Facebook post about, "Oh, I'm feeling," you know. I just said, "Hey, I'm taking a break, and I'll talk to you guys later." And then I spoke to the people I needed to talk to help get my brain back together. So I'm 100% for the buddy system. I
Yeah.
recognize in myself when I start to get like that. I have two wonderful bosses. In both of them, I tell them, look, if you see that I haven't shaved in like a month and my clothes are all kind of dirty or maybe I'm smelling a little bit because I didn't take a shower in 3 days, it's probably because I'm depressed or I'm going through a rut. Tell me, okay? I'm not ashamed if you tell me, Phil, what's going on, because it means I'm going through something, and I go through some things quite a bit. I'm like a roller coaster. Um, so yeah, let's break that taboo, guys. Talk to
No,
people.
that's really great if you can have those people in your life that you can rely on, that you can trust. You, that's really good to enjoy that, to have that type of friends, and to have, even if it's someone you're not sure how they're going to receive it. I totally agree with you. I mean, it's worth risking it. The worst thing you're going to see, it's not a good friend, you know. But I mean, the
Exactly.
chance is very low because most people are going to care. Most people are going to care.
Yeah, exactly. Most people are gonna care. And
I mean, honestly, I think anxiety and depression are a fairly normal state of being. I mean, we
Yeah.
all go through it at some point or another. It's just the degrees.
the degrees, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And and we were talking about suicide. I just want to add something because it's something that always bothers me when I hear about suicide. Because sometimes people who have suicidal that try. I mean, physically they try to harm themselves. People say, it's just for attention. It's just for attention, as if it was not a problem. Like it's just for attention. But some people, it's not normal that someone does this for attention. It's not normal neither. So it doesn't matter like whether it's for attention, whether it's not for attention, whether the person like it, the person needs some help. Like it's not normal to do stuff for attention here, and you never know when it's gonna be for you. So it's not to minimize neither. I just
no,
want to
for
say,
sure. Pete, you might have seen this movie because Pete's an avid movie watcher, or maybe Emily's seen this too. Is it called Boys Don't Cry?
yes,
It's a
No, I
documentary.
haven't seen it, but I am familiar with it because Hilary Swank was a star
No,
on
no,
Beverly Hills
not
90210.
the Hillary Swank one, but it's not the Hillary Swank one. I think that one is Girls Don't Cry. And this one is
Oh,
called
really?
Boys Don't Cry. Oh, Girls
uh,
Don't Cry is a great movie too, but it's like watch it once and never again because you might kill yourself after. It's very depressing. Um, but Boys Don't Cry is a documentary about a boy with bipolar disorder. You know, his parents kind of documented his life since he was little. Maybe 1, 2 years old, and the whole journey of like dealing with this kid and taking him to therapy and having him on medication. And spoilers at the end, unfortunately, he does commit suicide. But it was such a powerful piece because it's like Emily said, this whole idea of suicide, of like, oh, it's just for attention, it's for attention. There's something terribly wrong with that person's brain chemistry for them to go to that final stage. And if it is a call of attention, pay attention. Then that's all I can say. You
yeah,
know, if it's a
Yeah,
call
exactly,
of attention,
exactly.
pay fucking attention. Like that person needs some help.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
and I would ask Emily, like, what kind of help can you give these type of people? Because I unfortunately I've known some bipolar people. I had the misfortune to live with one for a few months, and like her whole trip was like, I just need to get out of this world. Like, what can you do short of I mean, I guess medication probably is actually the best answer, but besides that, like, what can you do to convince somebody in this state of mind that their life has value?
Yeah. It's really hard. It's because what happens when people usually they start to think about suicide, and then it's growing in their head, and it's kind of when they train you to act with people like that to help them, you have to imagine them that they're walking towards the corner of the room, and once they come to the suicide as being the only option is because they have their head like stuck in the corner of the room. So you have to tap on their shoulder, you have to help them, turn around and say, look, there's other options. Because people sometimes you hear to someone kill themselves, they're like, man, they're so like selfish, they didn't think about anything. And like, no, it wasn't selfish, but yes, they didn't think about anything else. This is true. As far as
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
and
stuck there. They thought they would help people. They thought people didn't even want them in their life anymore. Often, sadly, people get to that conclusion. It's the best solution, which is not true,
yeah,
right?
and the difficult thing with bipolar people is that they do have these highs where like that's what I notice most about bipolar people. Like 1 minute they're like sobbing in bed in darkness, and then like they're just like bouncy Tigger. So they do have these moments, but they can't find the in between. And I think that's probably where medication is probably the best solution.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the difference between often there's mixed diagnosis between a borderline disorder, which is a personality disorder, which medically
Yes.
doesn't work, but they can have ups and downs. Usually, it's during the same day. It goes on with what's going on with their life. And bipolar disorder, it's going to be on many weeks. Like a manic episode can be shorter, like 7 days, something like that. But usually it goes on for a longer time. And the problem, bipolar disorder, usually the problem is when they have what we call mixed episodes. So they have like the high and the energy of the manic period, but they also have like the depression. So they have the energy because someone just in a pure depression is not going to have the energy to
Right.
even contemplate often like suicide. They're just like they just feel like sleeping all day and stuff like that. So when they have both
Yes.
together, this is a very very dangerous thing. And the
Uh,
suicide rate is very high, unfortunately.
yeah, I pulled up some stuff here. Suicide prevention line
Yeah.
in Brazil, 188. That's
Yes. Yes.
the suicide prevention line. But also, I'm reading an article here that says that the number of suicide among young people in Brazil has gone up by 28%. This is from between 2014 and 2019. The number of people that took their own lives went from 9.7 thousand to 12.4 thousand. That's a lot of people,
That is
you
pretty high. That is
Yeah.
pretty high.
know, that have taken their life. This is from Viva Bem, from wall.com, which is kind of like the Brazilian America Online, Yahoo, whatever. Um, so, again, just going back now, just kind of like some practical stuff people can do. One, you said
Yeah.
kind of self check. Anything else that you would recommend? Actually, before you answer that, I'll give you some time to think about that. Other things that people can do to self check. But I do want to say hi to people listening in, and if anybody has any questions, want to share anything, feel free to do so. We're here for you. Just want to say hi to Sid again. Good night. Real nice guy, Sid. Very inspirational guy. I watch some of his videos on YouTube. And we got Carol here from Expats Interviews Thriving Abroad. She's got a great channel, talks to expats all over the world. And I was proud enough to be on. I was interviewed by her. Real nice lady. Great topic this evening for expats everywhere, not only in Brazil. And this is true. Um, in the title, I put how to manage mental health as an expat. So not just a Brazil issue. And Craig, real nice guy, Craig, that I know here from Sao Paulo. Good evening, good people. I appreciate the topic. It's vital, extremely vital. Taking care of your mental health, guys. Everybody is so hip to the vegan lifestyle and the no gluten this and no gluten that, but nobody thinks about their mental health. And the mind controls everything, controls whether or not you're going to be able to have that vegan breakfast. Okay, so you got to take care of your mental health. But Miss Emily, what
Yes.
would you say? What's something else, just a practical thing that people can do if they can't reach out to a psychologist? And by the way, we do want to get your contact info if you don't mind sharing at some point here, okay?
Yeah.
But if they can't get to a psychologist, they can't get to a psychiatrist, and they really need to.
Well, they're
What could
getting
they
to me
do?
now, so I'm gonna go there. you, I think I'm gonna go with the obvious first, okay, and after I'm gonna give other ideas. But
No, go ahead. It's on you.
obviously, I think exercise. I'm a specialist of mental health, mental, but exercise is so important. It's something that your body needs, and it is has been proven that it's better against anxiety than medication. It's better for anxiety than medication. So guys, don't skip the exercise. Don't skip it. It's very very important. Your body needs it, but your head needs it too. Your emotions need it. Uh, Also, like for about anxiety, a good thing I like to tell people is to practice, to imagine the future and try to catch yourself when you're just imagining the worst things. When they train professional, like a sports professional athletes, for example, to do a jump in the swimming pool, they're going to rehearse the jump many times in their head, and they're going to rehearse like it's going to work. Every little detail is going to work. That's how sport psychologists work with the athletes. So be an athlete for yourself. Like imagine stuff going well too, and it's gonna. Your brain is kind of like if you have a path in your brain, and all the time you use the same path, like the negative one, it's gonna automatically go that way. It's like if you're in a forest and you have a path opening in front of you because you walk there all the time. It's easier, so it goes there. So you have to practice yourself to think about the good things. It's possible. It's gonna go well. It's gonna go well. I'm gonna find friends. I'm gonna find a way to relax. I'm gonna enjoy my time there. Whatever. So try to practice consciously to open that path in your head. And the more you're gonna do it, like many things, like it's like a wheel, turning. Like once you start to turn it, it gets easier and easier and easier. So it's something good to practice. Also, relaxation. Mindfulness is super super fashion right now. Everybody's talking about mindfulness. Mindfulness is great, but there's nothing wrong with other types of relaxation too. I think anything that kinds of stop you from thinking too much sometimes is good. Like gives a break to your head. So it can be music. It can be you walk in the forest, like you just you let your mind, whatever it is that you like can be, I'm like of ideas here, but there's many different things that you can unplug your head and watch a good movie, something very good. It's kind of like a meditation for your
Mm,
brain
But you
also.
you work with
Mhm.
substance abuse as well, right?
I do, but this is
Yes,
not
and
one
and
and this
well,
is
yeah,
a
this
tricky one.
yeah, this is the segue because for a lot of people, when the thinking becomes too much and the negativity
Yeah,
becomes too much, this is what they turn to.
yeah.
So, how do you steer people away from that?
Yeah, but the problem with this is that it's gonna bring you more negative than it's gonna bring you
Yeah,
positive. If you take a beer one time, you relax. You take your glass of wine, you relax. Like it's not a problem. The problem is if you don't have another way to relax. You need that to relax because some people they take one beer per day. They're not alcoholic. They don't
right.
have it. They have medication. They don't take it. They have like antibiotics. They don't take it. They're fine. And some people they take only one beer per day, but they need it. Like it's like they're gonna freak out all night and fight with everybody if they don't have their one beer. You're alcoholic. You understand? Like it's what it means for you. It's how much you have other ways to relax or to enjoy yourself or when you're sad. Because if you have a problem with this, whatever the substance, obviously I thought more about beer, but if you have a problem with any substance, what's going to happen? Like you want to celebrate, it's going to be this. You're sad, it's going to be this. You want to relax, it's going to be this. Like you start to have no other skills in life, and it's really it's cutting your tools. Like if you go just for that, so then it's gonna start to to have an effect negative in your life. You know, on your health, on your mental health, definitely, definitely. And many people, many people, we talk a lot about depression and anxiety now. Many people they self medicate with substance abuse.
You know,
This is something like people need to be aware of. Definitely, definitely.
no, no. The addiction thing is real, and being in Brazil is complicated because here the culture is very much, well, it's a drinking culture first off,
Yeah.
but other drugs are quite easy to come by
Hey,
here.
ridiculously easy.
Yes, so it's very easy to get caught up in the world of self medication in Brazil, and it can lead you down a real rough path, man. I get shocked sometimes. I think twice I've seen this guy near downtown São Paulo. It was, this dude, I think he's from Australia. I forgot now, but spoke perfect English. It was a homeless guy, all he's like sitting on a cardboard box
That
and
happens
ask,
in Thailand all the time, man.
yeah, and he's asking for money, and I'm like, what, and try to talk to him, but he was kind of out of it and stuff, and I'm like, wow, how does a person get to that point? But then I think of myself when I first got to Brazil and how I was not accustomed to drinking as much in the US and partying as much in the US, because in the US you're in the rat race. And in Brazil now, all of a sudden, I had a job that afforded me a lot of free time, and I could still make a lot of good money. And I started going out to the parties, to this, to that, and drinking and doing a whole bunch of stuff. And before I knew it, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to screw my life up real quick.
Mm.
So I bought a TV
Yeah.
and stayed home. After you wake up in a motel room and you don't know how you got there and what it is that was in that
Yeah.
can of soda that the guy gave you to puff on,
Yeah.
you're like, maybe,
Aaron Boweray.
right? Like, maybe I should make some changes in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but it's very easy to get, I don't say that with any embarrassment, because it's like it's super easy to get caught up down here in Brazil if you don't watch yourself. So I think it's important.
Find
And I
yourself
love,
getting stuck in quicksand once in a while.
oh, for sure,
Yeah.
literal quicksand sometimes.
Yeah.
um, but I
Yeah, and
love,
I think that the alcohol is very even like even alcohol like it's so common. Like it's really hard for people here. I hear a lot of people have problems with alcohol because when you go on a weekend in a churrasco, people keep putting beer in your glass all day. So it's really
mhm.
hard for people who have a problem too.
Oh yeah, no, I had to learn how to drink in
Not
Brazil.
take and
I had to learn how to drink here. Like today, I'll go out with a group of friends, and they all kind of joke at me because I'm on my first glass still, and they're on their sixth or seventh. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean, I could be doing the same thing, but I know how I get after the sixth, seventh. So I learned how to
Yeah.
just sip slowly and enjoy the drink, because otherwise I'll just end up not coming home the next day. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
you got
It
to police yourself with that.
it's not quite as bad here as it is in Asia. I mean, like, I swear I met teetotalers in Asia who became alcoholics in the space of like 3 months. Like,
Mhm.
because it's so cheap. Like a 600 ml beer in China is like an American dollar. I mean, even here it's more expensive than that. And that's what the social life revolves around: going out, eating, drinking. So any country where there is a drinking culture and there is a significantly reduced cost of alcohol, it's prevalent, very prevalent.
Yes, yeah. Um, but I like some of the tips here that you gave, Emily, because I'm huge on exercise. I try to go to, well, I haven't been in the gym in a while, but I do run at least 2, 3 times a week. And the first thing that I did when the first lockdown happened back last year, I guess now it is, in March, I guess, February, I forgot now.
March 2020,
Yeah,
second
is
week.
just start running again. I had stopped running for a while, and then I just started running. I got better at it, got better at it. Now I do like 10, 12, 15 kilometers. But I did that for my mental health because I'm the type of person, it's so weird because I'm the type of person that does stay home a lot. I'm quite happy at home.
Hmm.
But if I don't have the choice to go out, then I start getting cabin fever.
Yeah.
And I was like that. I was like, wait, I need to be outside with the trees. Another reason why I live in Butantan, because I was getting very depressed in another part of the city that I lived that was just buildings and stuff like that. Um, and I did that for my mental health, and I felt so much better. And
Mhm.
I got fit, and and I still do it. And
Mhm.
it just activates your brain, man. It gets your juices flowing, and you think better. Everything just works better when you get a little bit of exercise, even if it's just a walk around the block. And the whole
Mhm.
visualizing thing is cool too, because I'm very much like that. Like I got my goals and set them and see them as real. Um, the what I was gonna ask you? First is does your practice work? Tell us a little bit about your practice, and maybe even how people can get in contact with you.
Well, I work currently. I'm working. I'm working exclusively online,
Hmm.
and I work. They can find me on the website. It's called psychologiaviva.com.br.
Can you write that down for me? I should have asked that before because I'm just a bit close.
Can
You can write that
I
down.
put it in the chat for you?
Yeah, put it in the chat right here. Actually, you can put it right here so everybody can see.
There, they can search my name, Émelie Leclerc. Uh, on
Oh,
there,
there you
they're
go.
probably they're gonna usually they can find it. I also have a phone number. I can send it to you after if you want it. I don't know if you can add it like somewhere.
No, it's
Yeah, I
right here.
wouldn't advise putting
On
your phone number on YouTube.
Yeah,
no,
I
okay.
agree with Pete. I agree with Pete.
Okay, so we'll keep it at that. You can go on psychologiaviva.com.br, and it's a free website to register, and
Hmm.
I'm on there, and people can book straight by the website. So all of my available schedule is on there, so it's easier. It's
Oh,
easier for
cool.
me, but I believe it's easier for people too. So it's a good way to do it.
And there you go, guys. There's the
Yeah,
site. Ok, psicólogos e terapia
yeah.
online ao seu alcance.
Exactly, yeah. And there's a letter. I believe there's a little button too. They can have my WhatsApp there if they want to contact me direct.
Oh, there you go. There's a little WhatsApp
They
button
want to
right
talk
there.
to me, whatever. Say that you
Yeah.
hated the live or that you loved it. You can contact me there too.
Oh, very cool. There's a little blog there, how it works. Oh, this is cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. There's still. I'm gonna be honest. There's still some little. They're still making it like a better technically. They still have some little problems here and there, but it's usually working.
Nice, nice, nice. So you're working online, and your clients are you dealing mostly with expats or Brazilians too?
Well, I was expecting to have a lot of expats that are here from outside, and because this happened when I opened well, first in Montreal. Okay, let me start from the beginning. I think it's gonna be easier to understand. My mom's from Belgium. Okay, so like I have a brother. He's married to a French girl who lives in Europe. My sister's married to Portuguese. So I was already set up like in a multicultural like environment. Then I went to work in Montreal. I worked in a neighborhood like was full of Haitian, was full of Italian, was full of had a lot of Arabs too. So I worked with many different cultures before I met my husband and I moved to Brazil. Then I moved to Brazil. I opened my practice here, and I got the expats right away, like big culture shocks, and uh, I worked a lot with that. People who wanted like therapy in English. But surprisingly, this was something that really surprised me when I started to go online on that website. I started to get Brazilians who were living outside of the country. So I thought it was very interesting to work with people like who were living exactly the same thing, but outside. And I started to see like
Yeah.
some typical things because when you live here, you feel like Brazilians and like foreigners. and then you have like the Brazilians outside, they become foreign. Like I don't know, it was something very interesting for me to see the same patterns coming, whether they were Brazilians or foreigners here.
Yeah, I can imagine, that they would deal with a lot of the same things without, being very specific, because I'm sure you can't. But what are some of the issues that you think are most prevalent for expats that are down here
The social issue is down here. You mean in Brazil, specific
in
to Brazil?
Brazil? Yeah, like
Well,
issues that expats come with you the most.
well, of course, the environment is very. It's a bit hard. Some people can be shocked by the level of violence, the level of stuff that they even to watch the news here can be.
Oof.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say traumatizing, but like it can be a bit
I would say
shocking for
traumatizing.
I
people.
would say traumatized too, Emily. I've
It's
told
not a
this
word that
story.
they liking, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
heavy.
I don't know if I've told this on the podcast. Probably have, but there was a maybe what 8 years ago, whatever. When I first moved to Butantan, I was kind of in between jobs, and I was home a lot around 4 or 5 p.m. when those sensationalist shows come on.
Yeah.
Tatena, Azul, Vivo, whatever. I forgot the names now. And man, I spent a week watching that shit, and I did not want to leave the house. Like I was not. I'm not exaggerating. I was shaking. Like I got the tremors, and I was like, "What is this?" And yeah, stuff like that will make you go like it's traumatizing. And I knew to turn it off because I'm like, "This is not reality." I know Brazil's, not sugarcoating because Brazil is a dangerous country compared to other places in the
It
world, but you can walk outside, people. You can have a good time. You can
Yeah, it depends on
enjoy.
where you live.
Exact. Well, yeah, that's true. But there's plenty of places in Brazil where you can really just enjoy the place. In fact, the city where you live, São José dos Campos, I love going there. It's very relaxing. I feel pretty cool just walking around, looking at everything. Um, but I would say traumatizing for sure. For people that first come down here, don't buy a TV. That's my first tip.
Yeah, the
Watch.
news here it's something. It's something.
Yeah,
And,
that's what computers are for. That's what
and
Netflix is for. Do not watch
but
Brazilian television.
I think there's another thing very very typical of Brazil. I think people moving here for family. I think it's something very families in Brazil. Like people say, you marry family out, but in Brazil,
Yeah.
they're gonna enter your house without knocking. They're gonna, they're gonna give their opinion whether you want it or not.
So,
Like
Emily,
they're there. You
Emily,
can.
are you trying to tell us you have a specialization in sogra? How to deal with the sogra, with the mother-in-law? This is Emily's doctorate. She's working towards
Yeah.
But
her second
but
doctorate.
I have a theory about Brazil. My husband, I'm gonna tell you, my husband is Brazilian. His theory is Brazil is the jungle. Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
his theory. My theory is I agree with him, but I have a different one. Like I think everything here is like extremes. I think, like I was saying about the doctors, you have like the best ones in the world. Like you have the best hospital, like Einstein, stuff like that, and then you have the worst ones. That
Yeah.
I remember when I arrived in Brazil, I was shocked because it was a nurse and she was convicted of she was unplugging the patients because some families were giving her money to have because there was no more space at the OP. That was before pandemic and that was like 10 years ago. But and they were paying her to unplug the patients to have someone for the family that has had the machine. Like it was crazy stuff. Like you have the best and the worst, like in everything, and the families too. I think you can have the best families in Brazil, the best like social support, like but you can have the worst ones too. Like
Mhm.
I feel
Oh, for
like everything
sure.
is extreme.
Well, we were just talking about that today in one of the expat groups. How at the beginning of the pandemic, there were nurses that were not injecting people with the
Yes,
vaccine. you know,
exactly.
and they had a whole big thing with that because they had the videos of them just not doing it. So yeah, well, it's good that you're on because one way that I describe Brazil a lot on this show is I call it bipolar. Because it's just you get the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And I always say Brazil is a country where the best experience is probably going to be one of the best experiences anywhere in the world. But it works the other way around. A bad experience is probably going to be like the worst fucking shit you've ever experienced in your
Yeah.
life. It's very extreme. There's very little middle ground here, so that's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but it's true. But I totally agree with you.
But
The,
have you seen like a shift in tone in your business with the pandemic? Have you seen like a lot of pandemic related cases?
What I've
Like
seen, one thing that was very like drastic for me. Everybody started to have how do you say in English, insomnia.
insomnia.
People insomnia. People. Everybody started to have trouble. Whether they were doing therapy for anxiety or depression or whatever
Wow.
it was. Even people that had nothing related with that. Everybody started to do insomnia. I think the fact maybe I don't know if it was the extra anxiety from the pandemic or if it was like people stay at home too much, but
Wow.
people start to have insomnia. That was very drastic, like everybody.
Weird. For me, it was the opposite. I started to sleep like 10 times more because I was working from home. I like I literally work in bed. So it's like I finish a job, sleep for a couple hours. I've never been so relaxed, actually.
yeah, I get the whole insomnia thing with folks that are just having major anxiety. I was suffering a little bit from insomnia, but now it's a bit better, being able to get to sleep. But I get it. And when you're stuck at home, man, I think that's one thing that's real complicated is you don't have a lot of ways to break the routine, and routine can create a lot of depression. When you're just
Yeah.
stuck in the same old, same old. So,
It
whatever.
depends on how you're stuck at home, though. Like if you're stuck at home
Mhm.
working, you don't actually have time to think about the
Yes.
fact that you're stuck at home. You're doing something. So I
Mhm.
mean, as long as you're stuck at home and being productive, it doesn't really matter. It's when you're stuck at home doing nothing that it
But
becomes a
that's the
problem.
thing. A lot of Brazilians, aren't. Because we're
Yeah.
working. Yeah. So for me, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm teaching from home. Although I will say this, back to the Dilma apocalypse. That was the first time that I started teaching online because I lost so many clients. So I gave a bunch of discounts. Let's do class online, and I did that for about 2 or 3 months. And man, like I just got stuck in a rut, dude. When I finally went outside, it was like, man sees the sun for the first time. Real
Yeah.
scary because I just wasn't leaving the house for anything. I was ordering food. I was, maybe just supermarket and back and just in the house because I had no money to go anywhere and I wasn't seeing anybody. So it was really bad. So I learned from that experience. So then when this first lockdown happened, I was really healthy, as far as going out, running, doing my classes. The second lockdown is the one that fucked me up a little bit, and is what got me on in that
Yeah, that was
rut.
annoying because we just got back in the swing, and then it's like, what the
Yes,
fuck? But it
yeah,
only
no,
lasted like
yeah.
3 weeks, though.
But it was like
Yeah.
the longest 3 weeks, and it led to the kind of severe anxiety, depression that I got that I needed to unplug because it was like Pete said, we were getting back in the swing and then everything shut down again. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen with my life? I don't know. I was just thinking crazy shit. And I gained weight and I just didn't want to go to the gym because, well, I couldn't go to the gym. And I was like, fuck. So, it's complicated when you're used to moving and then somebody says, you can't move anymore. People deal
Yeah.
with it in a myriad of ways and not always good. So complex, very complex.
Yeah. I think it's a stress like as for rainers. I think we got we well obviously the worst stress for people who lost their loved ones. But I mean we had one extra stress of not being able to see our families that maybe we're used to see every year, every 2 years, and then we're stuck in the country for we don't know how long, and everything becomes so complicated, even more than before.
I wanted to touch a little bit on that because, I think one thing that really is upsetting for expats is not being able to connect with their family. Um, is it okay if I share your personal page here on the Psychologia Vivo?
Yes, sure.
Okay, cool. Because I just saw you sent that. I'm gonna put
Yeah,
that here.
I send the link straight. Yeah.
All right, so this is the straight link, guys, and I'll put it in the chat for Emily if you wanna if you wanna schedule a time with her. Um, what would you say to expats as far as keeping in touch with their family, just in general? Because even before the pandemic, sometimes it can be difficult to stay in touch with family.
Well,
Well,
actually, I try and avoid being in touch with my family for the most part.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
no, Pete's like me.
Um,
We avoid family.
yeah, yeah.
But for those,
And my you mentioned borderline personality disorder earlier, and
Yeah.
yeah, my mother is one of those people. So I'm pretty good not talking to my family for the most part.
But you know,
well,
I think it's something that is very typical of many people. I already saw research about that. There's many people who move away because one of their parents has a mental disorder. It's very, very common. It's
Yeah, I
very,
believe it. I believe it.
it's something that I don't know if it helps or if it just makes you. Maybe sometimes some people it's easier to have a good relationship when you're far, or if it's
It was actually. I lived in China for quite some time. It was a really weird situation. My wife's parents bought a house like a block from my mother, and she was like so close, and I couldn't be far enough away, and yet here we were, like we couldn't be more close. And when I lived in China for 5 years, like all of a sudden, like we had like a pretty decent relationship because it was very long distance. And as soon as I moved back to Canada, I think it took about 6 months before we weren't on speaking terms. It's like, nope, can't deal with this crazy person.
yeah,
mm,
you can't deal with it on the day to day. But what about for people that do, the normal people out there? Because I'm kind of like how Pete is. But what about for normal folks out there that do kind of miss family and want to connect with family? What are some tips you can give them to like not feel so homesick?
to connect with the family.
Yeah,
Oh,
to connect a little. Yeah, connect a little bit with back home. I mean, because I know a lot of folks that get depressed when they're
yeah,
here because of homesickness.
yeah.
they love it here, but they just can't deal with being like far away from friends and family.
Yeah, but you know what some people do now with the pandemic? They have some games online. Some people started to play with their
Yes.
families online, and then you can chat at the same time and play on the game. So it's a bit different than just being like talking straight like that, like we usually do, just by video. So sometimes if you find a different way, or you try to call at different time, people are in another mood, or call when
No,
you're in the street. Sometimes stuff like that can be different. Can give more the impression you're doing something together, instead of just talking.
yes, that's a cool tip. Because yeah, just talking sometimes is not enough. Like you feel like okay, I'm having that therapist session every week, and it's
Yeah.
not enough. Because the whole idea of family when it's functioning is hey, we do things together, we build together, which is different than having a Zoom call for 30 minutes. That's not exactly on the same level. So that's a good
Yeah.
tip. Online games, something that I do with my friend Renee every once in a while. She's like my little personal therapist. She's also works with psychology.
Yeah,
uh,
different type of psychology.
Well, yeah, now, she works more with sex therapy, but she's a certified psychologist. She had a traditional, quote unquote, practice in New York, but then when she came to Brazil, she discovered other ways to do what she already did. Um, so she's like my little personal therapist. But one thing that we do a lot is watch movies online, and that's so helpful, and it keeps us, in that connection. You can just pop in the movie, go on Zoom, and watch away. So there's a whole lot of things that you can do, guys, to connect with folks. But most important is don't be afraid to speak out. Emily, you remember the boy Cody? He was actually on
Yes.
our
Yes.
podcast. He
Yes.
called in. And it
Yes,
was so I was so proud of him, that he just said what was going on. That's not an
mhm.
Yeah,
easy
that
thing
was
to do.
harsh, man. I could relate to that.
Yeah, yeah. That
You
was a
know,
really hard one. He's good. He's good, Phil. Yeah,
yeah, no,
maybe.
and he's back in the States, and nobody, people really tried to help him. We made fun of him a little bit because he was making some dumb mistakes. Even after we told him what not to do, he was doing the opposite. But it was light ribbing. Uh, but for the most part, the expat community, guys, and I'm gonna give a tip, Emily, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Expat communities, okay? I mean, I'm a big proponent of if you're in a country, be in that country, like immerse yourself in the culture, go out, enjoy the food, the music, everything. But have that safety net, which is an expat group that you trust. There's a bunch out there. I mean, I'm in Worldwide Expats. There's the
Hmm.
Black Brazilians. I'm sure there's expat groups for women, for gays, maybe people out of Canada, whatever. Facebook is out there, Instagram, whatever, WhatsApp groups. Connect to other expats because I didn't have that for a long time. I was very much immersed in Brazil, and I was dating a Brazilian. And when we separated, I was felt really alone. I didn't have a big circle of friends here from Brazil, and that's when I first joined the expat groups and realized, oh, all the stresses, the daily stresses that we go through, our refrigerators breaking and rats falling from the ceiling and gas
It
lines.
happens.
I'm not
Suicide
talking.
towers.
I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Okay, that can
The
happen to many people.
occasional gas explosion.
The occasional, the daily stress. It's nice to be able to talk to somebody who you see. Oh, they're going through the same shit. It's not just me. It's not just me who's got a landlord from 6 months ago calling me saying, "Oh no, you're going to pay for because you let this other guy sign the contract and move into the place, but now he moved out and now you got to pay for it." Like this was happening to me, and I was like, "What do I do?" And it's cool to have that safety net of other expats that be like, "Man, just stay cool. We got your back. If the worst of the worst happens, we're here for you." So definitely have that safety net. Let me just say hi here to Anthony McGrew, who always joins us. And usually, guys,
It
it's
was always very colorful as well.
very colorful as well. Folks usually come in after the 11 o'clock hour, guys, but we're kind of winding down. But please listen to the whole podcast after. Comment below. Tell us your stories of how you've overcome maybe some anxiety, depression, some downturns in your life while here in Brazil or anywhere in the world, really. Because sharing is caring, as they say, right? And it really is. I mean, these phrases are so corny, but they're true. Um, anyway, guys, well, Emily in particular, we do something now, something very special.
Oh, before you're going to do the quiz, right?
Oh no, go ahead, Pete. If you got something to add, go ahead.
Yeah, no, no. There is a burning question I've had because I am actually reading this amazing book right now, recommended by our friend Craig, Craig Wooden, not the Craig who is listening now, although we appreciate his attention.
Craig
It
is our unofficial third podcast host. He always shows up.
Yeah, and he is amazing for recommending books. And he
Mhm.
recommended me this book called Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. And the entire book deals with cognitive dissonance. Like the inability to realize that you hold two opposing views. And in my experience with people who suffer from borderline personality disorder, like my mother or my ex-girlfriend, is they see everyone else as the problem. They're the victim. I mean, you're the psychologist, you're the PhD, so obviously you know more about this than me. But in my personal experience, it seems to be that people with borderline personality disorder feel that they are the persecuted ones. And reading this book on cognitive dissonance, like how hard it is to reach people who just do not accept objective facts. How do you do this?
how do you deal with people with that cannot accept their responsibility?
Yeah, yeah. People who have such a high level of cognitive dissonance that
Mm,
they do not see objective facts as they really are. I mean, like
it's a
to
great
give you an
question.
example, I can't get certain friends of mine to get vaccinated, and I mean I wouldn't say they have borderline personality disorder, but I would definitely say they have cognitive dissonance. Like
Yes. Well,
they
everybody has
refuse to see. Yeah, well, we all do. Everybody does,
one point.
but
Yeah.
in some cases it's more severe. So
Yes.
how do you penetrate that?
Hmm. Well, you have to be very patient because there's no magic trick. There's no
Right.
magic trick. So you have to be very patient. You have to try to talk to the person. Usually, borderline they can be especially explosive. It's not the time to talk.
Yes, yes. I have
It's
stitches in my
definitely
head to prove that.
yeah. You have to imagine like a parole lights. Traffic lights. Like, is it a green moment? Is it a yellow moment? Is it a red moment? Like when it's green, you can talk. You can try to talk. You can try just
Yeah,
with a lot of empathy to try to show that you want their good and your good, like both together. But definitely when there's a crisis or something, the person is very very stressed. It's better to try to calm down things than than try to talk things out. And unfortunately, some stuff just come out. For example, in couples, some stuff just come out when people are very stressed. But that's the worst moment that you
yes,
can talk about it. And that's the worst moment that it's gonna come out right. Maybe it's the right thing to talk about, but not in that way, not in that moment, not like that. So it's good to try to follow the rhythm. Like if you can be more calm than the other person, it's good to try to don't be shy to just calm down the person, even though the stuff is not resolved. I think when there's a problem in that moment, this needs to be fixed first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Avoid the violence.
avoid the violence. And sometimes I don't know. I think the best thing to do sometimes is just walk away.
Yes.
You know, because if a person is just set with whatever mentality they have, I don't think there's much you can do to change that. I mean, you can maybe lead by example and just kind of live your life, and they can see, oh, okay, well, Pete didn't die after taking the vaccine, so maybe it's not that bad, you know. So there's that. Sometimes I would say just kind of lead by example, walk away, and some people just aren't worth the time unless you really, really,
That
really
is true.
care
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, especially in the land of Facebook. We kind of answered this at the beginning here. A question Craig asked, but can you just remind us once more, Emily?
Why
Why?
did I pick Brazil? I didn't pick Brazil. I picked a Brazilian.
There you go.
Brazilian picked me. I think it was both.
Perfectness.
So that's what happened. That's what happened. But I fell in love with Brazil. I mean, I like Brazil. I think it's an easier country to go on vacation to than live in, definitely. But I love Brazil, and I mean I'm from Canada.
It's a lot warmer than Montreal, that's for sure.
It's a lot warmer than Montreal. I mean, I live 1 hour and a half from the mountains, 1 hour and a half from the beach, and I have a great park next to where I live with tropical trees that has mango. That I cannot complain that much. I mean, that's why I think you need. When I did talk about that in the beginning, but personally, when you play that, I think you need to remember why did you accept you Brazil? Well, the weather is great, the people are nice, and it's you know the food the food is like they have very very I love like the tropical foods here. So like it's small things, but there's a million like that. But you have to remember what you like
No,
about
for
that.
sure. No, and you live in a great city. I love Central Dos Campos. I've been there a bunch of times, and I'm always happy to go there. Very laid back, and I love the fact that it is, like you said, it's in between the beach and the mountains, so it's got this
Yeah,
cool vibe of a little bit of both.
yeah.
So it's a very cool city. We got people here say, "I so agree. Just walk away." And Anthony McGrew said,
Mhm.
"I'm done trying to convince anyone to take the shot."
Yeah.
Craig also agrees. Save yourself, walk away.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes that's just the smartest thing you can do.
No,
It's just
because a lot of people they feel guilty, like they're like should have said this, I should have said that, but they don't understand the person was not in that mindset, like would not have listened, like
yeah,
Yeah, I was
it's not
kind
the
of
time.
asking you that question from the point of view of a therapist, though, because as a therapist, I would think it would be kind of your job to reach someone's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but
Right, right. In our personal life,
when
I agree. Like,
Mhm.
fuck them. You know, like, some people you just can't reach, so fuck them. But if it's your job, then
Yes,
you know,
yeah. Yes, but I mean, even me, if I was working, I used to work with the people with the drug addiction in Canada, but some places I worked was with people like homeless, and not homeless, but like walk in. People would come in, when they were in a
right.
crisis, and the way has to stay there like 24, 48 hours. So sometimes they were very intoxicated, or they were in a withdrawing, like severe withdrawing. Uh, like you have to calm people down. It's the same thing. You cannot start to do therapy with someone who's not right neither. It's a bit the same thing. You cannot talk about the real thing. I mean, I work online. Sometimes people like take a beer or start to really like people start to do stuff in, in their meetings too that they used to not do. To like you have to say, oh, well, like it's not the
Yes,
time,
I get the
sometimes.
mental picture.
Yeah, so it's just it's not the moment sometimes to talk about like serious thing. There's moment to be more uh, serious, and there's moment to just save the furniture. There's a fire, like save the furniture after you see what caused the fire,
Yeah,
how you can avoid one next time, how you can and with people with extreme, like because any personality disorder, what happens, the person have extreme distortions, like that's typical, that's what it is, like personality disorder. People they have big distortions in the way they have the perception that they have of the world, of
hmm,
themselves, like of others. So it's really it's something that is deep inside the person, so it's hard to, it's not medication that's going to solve the problem. It's not like one conversation that's going to solve the problem. It's not even like therapy. We talk about years of therapy for personality disorders to get better, not even necessarily to be like you cannot really say like cured. Like it's kind of like you can bring a person to a level of functioning, maybe a very good one, maybe
hmm.
but it takes years and years.
Yeah, Phil and I were actually
Being
talking
happy
about
is not
this earlier today.
we're talking
Um,
exactly. I was going to mention that.
about how, like, okay, if therapy is so great, why are people in it for years? And what we came to the conclusion was that, like, because if you stop, you're just going to slide back down. Like, some people just need that constant affirmation, somebody to put them on the right path, and not make them better. Because I mean, I think of someone like my mother. I don't think my mother would ever be better, like cured, but she could be
Yeah,
better than she is.
Can be
yeah, and
functional.
they can be more, they can reach more happiness. This is what everybody wants: more comfort, more understanding of what's going on. And that step back that I talk about, my vision is really that it's a moment you take a step back and you look at your life. And when you have someone, the difference with a therapist is that you're going to have a neutral point of view. It's not like family, and it's someone who studied like how the mind works, how who has some experience, what helped other people, what made other people find more happiness in their life, like more comfort, more truthful relationships, like nourishing relationships, nourishing
Right.
experiences in your life. So
No,
it's
for sure,
something.
for sure. So I get it. When it comes to something that intense, even with therapy, it's not. It's something that takes a long time to break
Yeah.
that person down. I was actually, it wasn't actually prep for the show, but it just happened to pop up on my YouTube for whatever reason. It was a therapist talks about movies or something. They have a lot of series like that, like Real Lawyer, judges and movie lawyer. And they were talking about Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting, a movie I did not like very much, but I do think his role as a therapist on there was interesting, and he actually gave high marks. And one of the things that he said in that kind of I'm mentioning this because of what you said about calming the person down. Because the first meeting between Robin Williams' character and Will Hunting is not a good one. You know, Will does not want to be there. He's very angry, and he talked about how Robin Williams' character, he tries to match him. He doesn't try to go overboard, but if he says if the guy is a little angry, okay, you don't have to be angry, but you should have a little bit more intensity. If they're calm, speak calmly. If they're sad, and in that he was able to kind of make a connection with him, like at least to make him come back a second time. But that's far from the end of the movie. You know, we got another 2 hours of movie after that to show that it's a long process to even get somebody to a state of accepting that, yeah, I got some issues
Yeah.
that I have to deal with. And one that Pete and I were talking about today was The Sopranos, and
Hmm.
the psychologist there. That show actually won awards from psychology associations in America as being one of the best portrayals of psychology on television. And but what we thought was interesting is that at the end, you know, there's a I think in a later
She gives
scene
up, and
she
this
gives up.
leads this
Yes,
leads right to the last question I would like to ask. Have you
yes,
been in that position? Have you had somebody who was just so beyond help that you had to say, "I can't do anything for you"?
yeah.
And you don't
It's
need to
always,
name
yeah.
names. You don't
No,
need
of
to
course,
name
I'm never
names.
gonna, I'm gonna never
No, she
gonna do
Yeah.
that.
can't by
But
law.
it's
I don't think she can name names.
no by law, but I mean by
Yeah,
principle too. But
yeah.
it's no, actually, right now, and since I worked in Brazil, it never happened.
Okay.
Never happened. Maybe sometimes I talked on the phone to someone and I said, look, I don't work with that type of problems, or I don't feel comfortable. Uh, but it's, I mean, it's rare because usually people come to me because they want therapy, specifically by my profile. They say I want in English. Like I started even to do some stuff that I told people, look, I never did that before. I think maybe I could help you, but because it's kind of like a doctor when you're specialized in something, you're a bit of a generalist, But I'm like,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
not my specialty, but I can try to help you. Maybe I can help you a bit. I don't know. And then people are like, no, but we really need someone who speaks English, and you're the only one we found in the city. And I'm like, okay, so let's try. I tell people like, let's try. I don't know. You're gonna tell me if I help or not, and I ended up helping. So I was happy, But it depends because. Could have gone the other way too. Like at least I was honest, but it never happened like something.
Okay. Because Phil and I have both fired students. We're
Oh,
English teachers, and we've had students that were like, "Yeah, like you're not putting in the work, so like we can't help you. Like you're not
No,
worth my
no.
time."
well,
Oh, if
Emily
I
has
did that.
a
No,
good
but
one.
it takes time sometimes for people. Like you have to be patient. I think
Yeah,
it's
no, I
hard.
Yeah,
mean,
time is money,
Nothing
though.
easy. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, but dealing with therapy and as a student that doesn't want to do their homework are like, you know, totally two completely different things. So I get it.
They're different
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms.
exactly. It's a different nature because, but then you still work on something because you go, but why you didn't do it, and then you go to work on something else because there was a
Hmm.
reason the person didn't do it. Or
Yeah.
something you recommended or whatever. But also, let me tell you something. Like I talk about patience, but and we talk about therapy being something a long term too. But I wanted to point out that many times they show that yes, therapy can for a long time. You have a therapist that gets to know you very well and goes through many life events with you, can help you tremendously. But at the same time, usually they say in the 2 or 3 first months, you should see the biggest changes of the therapy you
Mm.
know so if you are with a therapist for many 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 months and you don't see any changes, or you don't even feel better, or you don't even understand anything better, like you're still more even confused, maybe, I don't know, like I think it's worth maybe thinking about changing therapists too, because sometimes it's not that the person's bad neither. People have a you can have a good connection with that person, or a not so great one, and it's not the person's fault. But
I like
sometimes it's
that.
good to
That's
change
good
therapists.
advice. That's good advice. That leads back to English, Peter, because I feel a lot of times with English, it's like that. I get it when a student maybe doesn't connect with me for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's
And
nothing.
I used to feel bad about it until I realized, well, yeah, but I got a lot of clients that I've had for a long time. So whatever reason, they just didn't connect with me. They're not learning with me. There's no evolution. So I get it when they're like, okay, well, they never tell you. They're like, my grandmom died like 5 times and then they don't show up to class. Correct. But whatever, I get it. So I imagine with therapy would be the same because it's so much a relationship built on trust and almost a
Yes.
friendship that you create with.
You do need the rapport.
Yeah, you do need that rapport. And back to Tony Soprano though, he was insane. So I get her decision to. But although what I liked about it is that she had a real deep discussion with her colleagues before. It wasn't like a rash decision. She really
Well,
thought hard.
because she kind of got off on the experience of experiencing
Yes,
his lifestyle through his eyes. That was
yeah,
the whole dynamic of the relationship. Like she was
yes.
a bit of a junkie for him.
Yes, yeah, that was interesting. And by the way, Emily, just because we mentioned The Sopranos, I had written a blog post about it only because I was going through kind of like a midlife issue a few years back, 4 or 5 years back, and I rewatched The Sopranos, and I watched it with different eyes. I watched it with the eyes of somebody that was feeling kind of a lot of anxiety and depression, and I got a new appreciation from the show as far as not being a mob show, but being a show about psychology, and it's very much about this guy's relationship with his mom and his family and his psychological issues more than the story of a gangster. So if you've
Maybe
never,
I'll watch it then.
oh, you should. Oh, definitely watch it. And
Yeah,
especially in the
it's
later
pure
seasons,
Americana.
it gets very psychological in the later seasons, which the people that were into the show for the gangster stuff got upset. They were like, no, this is supposed to be a gangster show. What's going on? But I appreciated those later seasons more watching it this time because I'm like, oh my God, I get what David Chase is trying to do with the show. He's not trying to make a mob show. He's trying to make a show about this guy trying to figure his life out in a crazy world. So definitely, as a psychologist, I think you would really dig this show. But guys,
Mhm.
first I want to say hi to Ian, which I hung out with yesterday. Had a really good time with Ian Montero. He says hello, everybody. So hi, Ian. We were chilling over on Paulista. But Pete, I think we can do it, can't we? Can we hit
Let's do
Emily?
the quiz. Yeah.
We can do it, Emily.
All
Now,
right.
Emily,
You are being threatened with deportation.
deportation back to cold Canada with no mango tree.
Yes.
Okay, if
Yes.
you.
In September. Montreal in September is
Oh yeah, no, you'll
still
be
not
back in.
pleasant.
Oh my God, we're gonna send her back to Canada in fall, going into winter. Oh my God, so please get all these answers right,
Yeah.
Emily.
There's no fall in Montreal, man. It goes from like scorching hot summer to like sub-zero
Yeah.
weather in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my God! All right, so pay
Yeah.
close attention. Pay close attention. I'm going to ask you the first question here, Emily. Lightning round. Answer the first thing that comes to your head. What is the best thing about Brazil?
My husband.
Ooh,
Oh, that is so sweet.
that is sweet.
That
Oh,
is so
oh,
romantic.
segue time. I'm sorry, segue time. We will have Emily's husband on. He's a really cool guy.
We will in Oktoberfest.
Yes, for Oktoberfest. And like I said at the beginning of the show, the whole reason I wanted Emily on, I wanted her on with her husband when I first met them because I knew they had this awesome brewery. We went all the way up there. I'll tell you the story of how we got up there when we have them on because it's insane. But we got up there, great
Yeah.
beer, great time,
You
and
got to dilemma. How long it took you to get there?
took 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Yes. So I was like, no, we got to have you guys on to talk about beer. But then I found out she works with psychology, and I was like, oh no, we got to do that. We were trying to blend.
I just want to point out that Dilemma is just 1.5 hours from São Paulo. It's 4 hours with flight.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 4 hours when. Well, I don't want to get into it. Then I'm gonna
No,
need
that's fine,
therapy.
that's fine.
I'm gonna need therapy if I rehash that story right now, because that was insane. But anyway, so we will have them on, or him on. But you're welcome to come back with him. So great couple, great kids, great everything, like great beer too. All right, Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, Emily, what is the worst thing about Brazil?
The worst thing.
That's such an easy
I,
answer.
I'm gonna say something, and I know it's not gonna be a popular answer, but I think the rice and beans. Really, we're talking about
What is
That's
it?
like
fair.
not so much the rice and beans, the frequency of the rice and beans.
Oh
Yes,
my
yeah.
God, the
I
rice.
know
I
Brazilians who
can't
ate
see rice
rice and
and beans.
beans, so
Oh my. Segue again, guys, because I got to do some promotion. I'm starting up my book on Brazil, and I'm on the chapter on food. And yeah, rice and beans can be a hell meal because you get that
I can't eat
crispy.
it anymore.
Yeah.
Even when I go to the buffets, I don't get beans.
Oh no,
I get
I skip
rice, but
rice.
not beans.
I do the opposite. I get beans, but not rice. So I get it. I get it. I totally get it. Okay, next question is on me. And it's talking about food here. What's your favorite Brazilian food?
Well, something that is cooked. I would say maracuja mousse. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, maracujá mousse. That's very tasty.
I love the stroganoff too. The stroganoff. There's no beans. They just eat the
Wow,
rice
really?
together.
Oh
And really,
man, no, no.
I know it's made with ketchup and everything, and like cooking like the mushrooms are in cans, but really I like it. Like the taste is
so
Oh my
maracujá,
god, that's
guys.
like canned pasta in Canada.
Maracujá, for those that don't know, is passion fruit.
yeah.
Okay, and they make a nice little mousse of it, and it's very popular in churrascarias as desserts. That's where I first got into it,
Yeah.
and I've had it like this, more like without the
So good.
seeds and everything. And it's fucking delicious. Oh my god, it's very very good. And the stroganoff, the Brazilian stroganoff. I had Russian stroganoff the other day, which was not the other day,
Wow,
like
that
earlier this
that
week.
shit is amazing, man. Like the
Yes, it
shit.
was very
The
good.
deal with stroganoff is you need the sour cream, man. They don't use sour cream here. It's just wrong.
Yeah. This is missing. This is missing.
There it is.
But
That's
I
the
mean, if you
stroganoff.
don't think of it as stroganoff, it's really good. Like if you think it's stroganoff, then it doesn't work. Like
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, because Brazilians have a tendency to get food from other countries and do some wacky stuff with it, that's usually
Yeah,
not very good. Try a Brazilian hot dog one day, and you know what I'm talking about.
I
Um,
love Brazilian hot dogs. Though.
oh no, oof, good lord, yeah.
I love
Mashed
Brazilian hot dogs.
potatoes, mashed potatoes on hot dogs is the fucking shit, man.
Oh
Yes,
god, and green beans and like they put
Well, no, you just say no green beans. That's pretty
oh, but they
simple.
put corn on that shit. They put corn
Just
mashed
say no
potatoes.
corn. Just say no
Oh god,
corn.
oh no,
You gotta have the
because
mashed potatoes, though, man.
No,
oh,
and I'm the team. By the way, I'm the team Brazilian pizza all the way. The pizza is way better in Brazil than in Canada. If you go to a good pizzeria, you have to choose. But the pizza can be really good in Brazil, I think.
In Sao Paulo, it's excellent. We have
Yeah,
like
excellent.
strong Italian heritage here.
there you go. There's a Brazilian hot dog with the peas. You get a salad with your hot dog, so it's a little healthy. Not into it. I mean, I've eaten a couple, but I get sick after, so I stopped eating it. But back to the stroganoff, though. I did. There's a Russian restaurant in São Paulo that I went to, so I had some authentic Russian stroganoff. It was delicious. But the Brazilian one is really good too. It's just like Emily said, don't think of it as stroganoff, and you'll enjoy it. Salpicón is great as well. People like to play along on the quiz, so there you go. Osasco is a hot dog capital of Brazil. There you
Yeah,
go.
Sasko. Yeah, the
But
murder
then what
capital of
happens in
Sao
Italy?
Paulo.
Murder capital of Brazil too. I'm joking,
Yeah. All
but
right. So,
go
Emily,
ahead.
your least favorite Brazilian food?
My least, well, I think I already mentioned. So let me tell you the other worst thing. I'm gonna switch my answers. I'm gonna keep the rice and beans for that. I the worst thing in Brazil, I think, is the violence.
No, least
Oh,
favorite
food,
Brazilian food.
food. Yes.
Yes, but I'm switching my answers because you asked me what was my the worst thing in Brazil, and I answered the food
No.
like rice and
Oh, I get what she's doing. Okay.
beans.
So the worst thing in Brazil is the
Yeah.
violence now, and then the least favorite
Yes.
food is plain
Is
old
rice and beans.
arroz e feijão.
Yeah,
There you
but it's
go,
not
rice.
because it's not good. It's because it's too frequent. It's all the time, everywhere. I can't see it
Yes.
anymore. I'm not even in
Right.
touch.
Oh yeah, guys, you'll be haunted by rice and beans in
Yeah, I'm
Brazil.
done. I'm so done with rice and beans. I used to cook them at home actually because it's cheap, but there just reaches a point where it's like it's too much. Um,
Yeah.
they're good too. I actually like them. It's just I had it too
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah, too much of a good thing, right? Anthony here
Yeah.
doesn't like okra. The way they cook it is too slimy. Um,
Okay.
all right, I guess is it on me?
Yeah, it's on you.
Yes.
Number
All right,
5
Miss Emily, what is your favorite drink in Brazil?
Well,
can be alcoholic or
my
non-alcoholic.
husband's here, of course.
That's a good
But
answer.
I have to say, a good caipirinha on the beach,
A
it's pretty
caipirinha.
good. But especially, it needs to be on the beach. The caipirinha
Yeah.
good on the beach, without lemon, because the one with lemon, I learned in Brazil that you burn with lemon. So the
Yeah, well, those
Brazilians, they sell
potatoes are
lemon
pretty good.
somewhere, they go crazy at the beach. They
Do
get a
you
cigarette
guys
and they go
do you
crazy.
have a page for the beer? For the brewery?
They have a page.
What's the name? Give it to me
It's
real
called
quick. So
the
we
dilemma with one M.
Dilemma
Hmm.
Cerveja. At least people can. We'll give a little plug there, guys. So there's Dilemma Cervejaria. So it's a nice beer. Nice beer. We'll be talking Dilemma in the future. So
Hmm.
there you go. Cerveja artesanal. Okay, some artisanal beer. And you get the site there for Dilemma Beer. Pete, go ahead. As I'm just going to share the page here, but you can go ahead and ask the
Yeah, no
question.
problem. What is the best place you have visited in Brazil?
The best place.
Yeah.
I have to say, I didn't visit Brazil so much, but I have to say that the most like memory that I have, the strongest memory that I have is the first time I arrived. My husband was studying in Rio, and I arrived by plane in Rio, and I fell asleep on the plane. I woke up. I was on just arriving in the city, like in the mountains, in the clouds, and then you see the city of Rio. And really, I traveled a lot in Europe. I traveled a lot in North America. I was very, very, very impressed. I was very impressed. I think it was so beautiful from the top like that. Then you walk on the street, you get afraid. Everything is not as good. But
Yeah.
and really, I think it's so sad. I think that the buildings, many buildings, like are ugly. I think it's really sad. Like, but when you the city, like the mountains, the beach. I think it's because everybody look at the mountain, and the beach, so they don't care so much about the buildings. But
That's like The Simpsons almost. I don't know if you ever saw the episode where The Simpsons went to Rio, but yeah, they had pretty much the same experience. They're flying in. It looks so beautiful. You see the ocean, the
yeah,
buildings, the beaches, and then they hit the ground, and the first thing that happens is they get robbed.
Yes,
yeah,
beauty from afar. By the way, guys, there it is, cervejariadilemma.com.br. I'm pretty sure I had the hop full, but check that out.
oh, yeah. But now all these beers, they're old already because artisanal beer in
Mhm.
Brazil, you have to keep making new beers all the time. So
All right,
these
so
beers already.
we gotta get back to we gotta take a road trip, Pete. You will enjoy it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, no, I'm down, man.
And of course, Rio is gorgeous from above. Look at that.
Yeah.
I don't you not fall in love with that, but then you hit the ground and it's like, what the hell? Uh, 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 Anthony here says he just likes straight whiskey over ice, and I love martinis. But when you need to tell the bartender how to make it, he's gonna pass.
Yeah.
And somebody said Ted is all police here. Is it on me? Well, all right.
It
Yes.
is, yeah.
The most overrated location or thing about Brazil? Most overrated.
The most overrated.
Yeah, something people rave about, and you heard so much about, and then you did it, and you're like, it's all right.
Hmm. Well, I think I don't know. I have a I don't know because in Brazil, like people when I arrived here in Brazil, I think I didn't have like many expectations.
Right.
Like, I mean, the only thing I knew was like violence in the streets and the kids in the streets.
Yeah,
And
which is true.
unfortunately, I did see some, yeah, because I was in Rio, so I did see some, so, like overrated. I don't know. I don't know. They said people are like the girls are beautiful, and my gosh, I arrived in Rio too, so like definitely the girls put so much effort, but so much effort, like to look good. It's so I think it's so important here, like how you look. Kind of like many other places, like California. I think several places with beaches and stuff like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, but one thing about Brazil that I've really found though is that people who don't have beautiful bodies aren't ashamed to show them. Like you see
Yeah,
people who
It
have
is
pretty
true.
substandard bodies walking around in
yeah.
speedos, which I kind of wish we didn't. But I mean, good for them. Like okay, I don't have the most beautiful body, but I'm gonna be comfortable.
This
Yeah,
is true. This is true. I kind of like that in a way. Like it's uncomfortable at first, but then you're like, all power to them. Like they're comfortable in their own skin, you know. So, although I thought Emily, when you're talking about the girls in Rio, that's a little overrated. You know, you get this image of what they're supposed to be like, and then it's like, man, there's gorgeous. I think there's more gorgeous people in other places. You know, Rio gets all the glory, but definitely better beaches elsewhere,
but I
and
mean, they work so hard for it. Like they kind of
yeah,
deserve it. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because
They
they
live at
work.
the fucking
I don't know.
gym,
I
man.
thought, yeah, they live in the gym and the makeup and the clothes and the like everything. Like when they go all in, they go all in. So it's kind of like, oh, you have to look good because otherwise, like, you have so much time. I don't know. It's very important.
Yeah. And the worst thing about it is they're working that hard to look good for someone who probably doesn't even appreciate it.
well, that's a psychological issue. That's a can of worms there.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
So Phil and I were talking about the road trip. So tell me, what is the best place to chill in your city?
in New York City.
No,
No, no,
in
no.
your city.
I
São
might
José.
city. Sorry.
In São José
It's
dos Campos.
and San Jose dos Campos. Well, the parks here, the parks are very nice. We have very big trees. We have a lot of like we have like a some one of the park you have like a capybara. The other park you have like a little chickens. Like
Do you have a
it's
name
nice,
for?
but you have to get it's nice.
You got a park you can name? Because I can put it here on the screen.
My favorite one is the Sanchina because it used to be a sanctuary, like they used to treat people with tuberculosis, tuberculosis.
What's it called? Argentina Park?
Vicentina Aranha.
Vicentina Aranha.
Uh,
Oh, that's
yes,
it.
it's that park. So it used to be, you
Oh, it's
see, they
gorgeous.
used to treat people who had tuberculosis. And now they turned it into a beautiful park and this with a little church in the middle. And they have
Oh,
like
cool.
the forest. It's not that big, but the forest it's pretty natural. And they have a tons of cultural events outside of
It
park.
reminds me a little of Agua Branca Park here in São Paulo. Agua
That is a
Branca.
very
Um,
nice park.
Yeah, real nice park. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and São José is just a real nice city, guys. It's pretty. If you've never been there, it's a pretty modern city there. You can see the
it's a
pictures there.
good quality of life. Yeah,
Yeah, good quality of life, real
I miss
nice.
São Paulo for some stuff. But, it's more interior. Like I saw a big difference. Like people are a lot more traditional here.
Yes, yeah, but at the same time, but it's a big enough city where you feel like it's. I mean, it's over a million, right? How many folks live in
I
São?
don't think it's reached a million yet. I think it's more like
Oh, really?
700,000, 800,000. I think it's a bit less than a million, but it's a big city.
Yeah, it's a big
But
city.
you feel like in a village. You kind of see all the same people all the time.
Mm.
But it's a big city. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do
Okay,
that in Sao Paulo too, though.
yeah, because you end
Yeah.
up stuck in your neighborhood. It's so big here.
Yeah, exactly.
You're stuck in
Yeah.
your neighborhood on your in your
Especially now
zone.
that we're all working online.
Yeah.
No need to travel.
Yeah.
All right, Emily. What's your favorite Brazilian, or who is your favorite Brazilian musician or band?
A musician. I love a lot of musicians. I love the singer Elis Regina. I don't know if I pronounced it
Mm.
right, but I love her. Her energy, I think, is so great. I used to like Orapa the first time I came in Brazil, like in 2007. I really liked Tribalistas. I really liked
Yeah,
different.
but we had a podcast about music the other day. Well, not the other day, a couple weeks ago, and her name came up. We didn't pick any of her albums as the essential, but she's considered the greatest Brazilian singer. She's got a hell of a voice. And
She's
Ohapa, I
special.
love Ohapa, man. Ohapa is a
Yeah,
great, great, great
yeah.
band. These guys are awesome.
And
Ohapa.
Choron, Charlie Brown, Choron. Oh,
Mm.
he was such an artist. I really, really liked.
Yeah, Pete went to the Showdown Bar, right? You were there the other day.
Yeah.
I went to see a Charlie Brown cover band. It wasn't. I mean,
Ah,
obviously,
but the cover, no, no, not the same.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's all you can get nowadays, right?
Because I
Okay.
like the energy of people, it's like Elis Regina, she has an energy like typical of her. Like nobody can copy her. Like it's impossible. I feel like Choron was
Yeah,
kind of those guys. Like nobody's the same.
Yes, definitely. And the Oaxaca's also, they got great energy because it's a nice
Yeah.
mix, right? Of like rock with some reggae, with some pop. It's like they got a real nice mix, this band. All right, I think Pete's got the last question.
yes, I do, and I can predict your answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. One word of advice for future visitors to the country.
Buckle your seatbelt. Like
Okay, I did
literally
not
and,
predict that.
literally and figuratively. Buckle your seatbelt. I think like we see so many times in the group. It's really people come too often, like in the tourists, like what they saw when they were here on vacation, and then when you live here, it's different. It's different. It's a
Yeah,
harsh environment. It's not an easy place. And I think the difference in communication, we didn't go into that, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. But like the communication is so different in Brazil, and you think like, oh, I'm gonna speak Portuguese, it's gonna be fine. My Portuguese got good really fast. I'm good with languages, but once once I could speak Portuguese, I realized that even like people, for example, people don't say no; they say yes all the time, and the way they say yes, they mean no sometimes. So
yeah,
you have to, like it's very
yeah,
complicated.
yeah. Yes means no, and no means maybe.
Yeah, like it's you have to like analyze everything from the non-verbal, like of the person, the tone of the voice, the face. It's really complicated in the beginning. Like I'm starting to get
Yeah,
there, but
yeah. No,
I
I've
got
just
there,
given
but
up
it's
depending
hard.
on Brazilians. You know.
Yeah, and I think people don't expect like those details sometimes. But I
Yeah,
think if you move anywhere, there's always surprise.
Yeah, Anthony
Right?
Raguse,
exactly.
everybody up before you get here, learn some Portuguese. Last
Yeah,
podcast, we talked
yeah,
to a Portuguese teacher, and yeah, we got into that. It's more than just the language. We did a interview with this another Canadian named Kay who has an English teaching business down here, and I was re-listening to it, and she talked a lot about that in the beginning. It was just this nonverbal communication was her biggest challenge here of like just not being able to connect with her clients and this, and it took a while. And in one of the expat groups, we were talking about this, how some expats were complaining, like, what is it with Brazilians that don't understand me? My Portuguese is good and this and that. And I was like, sorry to rain in some of your parades, guys, but it's not just, how well you speak Portuguese that's going to get your message across. Because I grew up in a Brazilian household. I mean, I have almost no accent when I speak Portuguese. I pretty much speak fluently. I fuck up. If you start listening, you can tell that I do fuck up my Portuguese. But even then, with all that baggage, I still couldn't communicate well with Brazilians because of the nonverbal stuff and not knowing what they really meant, what their intentions were, and even just, how Portuguese is a lot more direct. So if you're asking for a napkin and you're saying, "Excuse me, do you mind if I grab a napkin?" If you say that, if you translate that phrase into Portuguese, they're gonna look at you like you're from outer space. You just gotta be, yo, give me a napkin, you know? So it's total different way of communicating here. It's a bit more intimate in some ways, more direct in the language, but not direct in the approach. So it's really bizarre because it's very direct language, like give me a napkin, but at the same time, they are the most undirect people on planet Earth as far as letting you
Yeah.
know what they really want. So you get all mixed up. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Then we call Emily because we need therapy after this. There you go. um, uh, Craig says, my accent is terrible here. Guys, the computer's still screwing up a little bit, so I'm going to try to put his comment on the screen.
No,
But he
it's good.
says, my accent is terrible here. Nobody understands my little Portuguese efforts. Oh, it's rough. It's rough. It's definitely rough. But anyhow, y'all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
it was
much
a
for the
pleasure, Emily. It
invitation.
was a
It
pleasure.
was a pleasure.
Definitely,
It
I had
was.
a
Thank you
good
so much.
time. And say hi
Emily
to
again.
your husband if he's there. He can say hi real quick. We will definitely have him on in October to talk beer and
Yeah,
get
his
that whole
favorite
story
subject.
out
He's gonna love it.
of how he started his. Man, it's amazing. I'll definitely have a bunch of pictures of the brew house, and if he's got pictures, send them to me so I can share them on the screen. Because the whole factory, Pete, it's incredible when you go in there. And he gives a real
I
nice
believe
tour.
it. I used to make my own beer actually, so I'm sure we could probably just dominate the podcast talking about how to make your own beer.
Boa noite, gente. Boa noite. Anthony and
Cheers,
Muguruza.
Anthony. Always a pleasure.
And Emily, wonderful speaking to you. Hope to see you soon in person,
If you go to
whether
the
there
brewery,
or
let me know because I meet you there.
oh, cool. Definitely, for sure. And that's it, guys. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Brazil Expat Journal, the BJ you can trust. We're here every other Monday, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. We don't know with whom or but we'll have something on that's interesting for you guys. And please contact Emily. Her contact information is up in the comments, but I'll leave it in the fixed comments. The description of the video, so you can contact her. And I think the message, if you all agree, is break the taboo. Talk about shit. It's good. Okay, you'll realize you have some good friends. You may realize you have some shitty friends, and you can get rid of them. Okay, so it's all good. It works out in your favor either way. And that's it. Like, subscribe, which I should have said at the beginning, and share the video. And we're out. Okay, but hang out, Emily. But I'm going to end the broadcast right now.